Okay, so we are speaking with Robert Lumsden of RV Associates. Robert, just to cover some of the basics of the business, okay, can I have the exact trading name of the business, please?
The exact trading name, that would be RV Associates Incorporated.
Okay, and the trading address?
1333 Lloyd Parkway, Port Orchard, Washington.
Okay. Operating hours?
7 to 5.
Monday to Friday?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the history of the business. When was the business originally established?
1979.
Okay, and by whom?
My mom and dad, Red and Vivian Lumsden.
Okay. What do you think was their original intention when they established the business?
Make money.
But did they identify a specific need in the market? I mean.
Well, when they started the business, it was my dad had an opportunity to buy some equipment from a company going out of business. So he started out small, and he was a trucking company more than anything. And for the first 5-6 years, majority of the work that he got involved in was dump trucking and small excavation. And really, it just grew from there. He's a good businessman, and a lot of people knew him. So the word of mouth went out, and we started getting involved in government contracts, public works, private works, doing school jobs, and it just grew from there.
Okay. But what do you think was driving, what do you think has driven really the growth of the business from, like a complete newcomer to the market to where you are today?
Wow. We're a highly competitive company in the area and has a great reputation. But what's driving the business is the fact that, I guess it's a good question. I never really thought in regards to what drives us. Wow. I don't know. We like what we do. We do a good job. We have a reputation of the quality of work that we do, and we're an honest, upfront business. I mean, we do what we say we're going to do. So people keep coming back and asking us to continue to do their work and moving forward. But what's driving us is it's a family-owned business. Bottom line is what drives anybody, I guess. But we like what we do. Okay. It started out as a lot of fun. We're gotten big enough now and we're old enough now that it's not near as fun as it used to be, but we still enjoy the type of work we do.
Okay, fair enough.
And also, sorry, Alex. It's important to note that they're primarily in the private sector, with excavating, and RVA is sort of kind of known as the gold standard, for projects. So when somebody thinks of, a project in our area, they automatically think of our RVA for that. So
this is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about the services that you offer currently to the market.
We are a dump trucking excavation company that does underground utilities and site development work. Our main focus is infrastructure for large housing plats, industrial parks, and box stores, commercial, retail. Wherever the market is, we go after, but we like the private sector much better. So that's what we focus on. We've done a lot of fisheries work, culvert replacements, stream enhancement work. Hazardous material work in regards to doing cleanup, job site cleanups. We used to do a lot of that, but we're kind of steered away from that in the last few years. So what else can I say, I guess?
Well, let me ask you this. And by the way, if you've already provided this information to us, just let me know, of course, because then we'll move on to the next one. But how do you think that the services are divided? What do you say is the rough breakdown between these different services that you offer to the market?
Well, we did provide that already, but if you start looking at the market as far as private to public works, which is basically where the balance is. Right now, we're about 80% private, actually closer to 90% private with about 10% public works. So a lot of the stuff that we do it with a private developer, and it turns around and goes to the local jurisdiction, like building a road or a roundabout. The roadways we build for the plats that we work on, that goes to the city of Port Orchard or the county and stuff like that. So anyway, right now that's where the market is. There's not enough housing in our area, so that's where we've been thriving really hard for the last 5-6 years, is the private sector, industrial parks and housing developments.
And Rob, if somebody needed to pivot, let's say there was a switch in the market, you're known enough in the public sector to be able to grab those jobs too.
Most definitely. We have a great reputation with all the local jurisdictions over here.
There's some pivotability there to adapt to changing market conditions.
Yes, and throughout the years, with the way the economy goes up and down in everywhere, you have to be prepared to do that, and we have been prepared to do it. That's how we started out in working in the government bases, and then went into the private sector, and then when the private sector started making a change, we went into doing fisheries stream enhancement and culvert replacement work. So we've been very capable to make the change with it, and we've done enough of it that we are pre-qualified in a number of different areas, including the state of Washington, of doing the DOT projects. We stay update with them. Government projects, we have gate passes to get our trucks in, and we still do subcontract work for some general contractors on the base. We have 3 naval bases within 20 minutes either direction. So that helps a lot for being able to go where the funding is.
Let me understand something. So when you talk about these private clients, do they come to you because of an ongoing relationship that you have, or are you competing by tender in each project?
Both. Recently, it's been word of mouth. We went into a large project with a company that has a 10-year plan. So if you looked at our workload right now, you'll see that a majority of our work is with one client. It started about 5 years ago. We know we have another 5 years with them as long as the economy allows that to take place. But we had to bid it first and get our name in and then prove ourselves to the client. So you still got to start out at the bidding process. Most people in our type of business go for a minimum of 3 contractors for comparable estimates before they pick and choose. And they don't always take the low contractor. They go by reputation as well. So being in our business for over 40 years, our name is out there. Anybody can make a phone call and ask about our company, and we have a great reputation. So that helps a lot on being able to change markets and work with different clients.
I see. Okay, so, I'm a client and I'm looking at different bids. And of course, I'm analyzing the issue of reputation. I'm also analyzing the pricing. What else am I taking into consideration if I'm going to award RV Associates this contract?
Well, it's got a lot to do with presentation of how you sell the company and the scope of work. We do a thing called valued engineering. So when a developer is in the design process to develop the land, we'll start working with them and providing what we call earth calculations. And we can let them know if the site's going to balance or if they're going to need to bring import dirt. We can see stuff as far as if walls are needed or if there's a way to reduce cost or try to catch things before it goes in for final review from the city or the county. So we do that a lot. We don't charge for that service to try to help get our foot in the door. It's really more office time than anything, of just being able to help them develop the project before it hits the ground so they can stay within budget.
Okay. Is that what's called value engineering, Rob?
Yep, that is correct. It's not design build, it's valued engineering. There is a difference. So we just kind of help them get ahead of it on the dirt aspect of it.
Right.
And as far as your systems and processes, do you believe that you have any sort of competitive advantage, or does everybody basically undertake the same systems and processes?
A lot of a lot of people take the same systems and processes. They have a lot of companies that can outsource some of the services we provide in-house, such as doing our own earth calcs. We have software programs that allows us to do that. We have a GPS set up where we can bring the stuff back to our office as far as the amount of dirt that we move. We help the owners save money on surveying because our equipment can be set up with a model to be able to do the cut fills that's needed. That's kind of where the industry's going, and we were right at the beginning of it when it took off. So that is a value add to what we can provide. Not every company does that, only some of the larger ones. I like to consider ourselves as more of for our area, we're a large company, but we're in a Kitsap County, surrounded by King County and Pierce County, which is a lot bigger. That has our competitors come from the other side of the bridge, we call it. So if they come over in our local area, that's who we're competing against. We try to stay as close to home as we possibly can, but you got to go where the work is. So we had to build ourselves up to be able to compete with them, and we're capable of doing that.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So with these bids, how are you notified that a certain job is going to the market?
How do we find out about it?
Yes.
There's quite a few different ways, but the Daily Journal of Commerce is one. They have an advertisement that goes out of all public works and private jobs that goes out to the public throughout Western Washington or even Eastern Washington. The Daily Journal of Commerce, I already said that. Builders Exchange is another one that provides all the general contractor's name and all the public entities that you can do search for projects in your area or wherever type of work you're looking for. So it's out there and advertised. And then, of course, the best one that I like is word of mouth.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, so explain to me a little bit, I guess, about the process. So, you see a job out there. Well, first of all, the bidding process, how long does it take for you to actually be able to submit a tender for it?
Depending on the size of the project, it could take anywhere from 4 days to 10 days, depending on how much information you have to put together to get it.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big process, but we have suppliers we work with very regularly, subcontractors we do a lot of work with. And so we put all the numbers together because we are a general contractor. We'll work as a sub if we need to, but a lot of times we provide a full online project, complete.
I see. And generally, once you've submitted it, how long does it take for you to receive approval?
If a public works bid, you could get an apparent low bid the day of the bid at bid time. And then they go through all the paperwork, and it could be anywhere from 24 hours to a week, depending on the jurisdiction, to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before they actually physically award the project. But on the private sector side, if it's negotiated, you could have it within a couple of days to a week. It usually goes pretty fast, I think.
Okay. From that point until commencement of works, generally speaking, what are we talking about as far as the time frame?
From the time that we discuss the job to the time we actually move on and get started?
Yes.
Again, that can vary based off award date, and public works, it's usually 15 days. Sometimes they have a start date that's months down the road, depending on other circumstances such as traffic or waterways, fisheries, stuff like that. So every job is a little bit different. We're looking at stuff right now that we're starting a value engineering process with the client that we're working with on our largest project we have going. We're already looking at next year's work. So we'll go through that process 3 or 4 times between now and September, trying to get it all dialed in to where they can be permitted for the next construction season and we can hit the ground running. So when you look at that concept of it, it could take up to 6 months. But we're pretty sure that, I'd like to say I know that we are going to go into the next phase, and we've already worked for them for 5 years. There's no reason not to, unless all hell breaks loose, which, stuff happens, I guess. we've got a great relationship, and they're just handing us these plans to start looking at it and start helping them design it and put the finishing touches on it so they can get it permitted and go to the next season. Okay. So, like I say, they all vary. If it's a small job, you could bid it, start work in a week. If it's a big job, it takes a little bit longer. There's a lot more paper involved, a lot more politics involved. I can go on and on everything that can take place. So, of course, it's just nature of the beast in this business.
Okay. What about payment terms? I mean, how does it work? Does the client pay a deposit in advance and then upon completion they pay the balance, or?
With the type of work that we do, you do not request or require any payment up front. Everything's basically a contract type situation, and they withhold retainage. So you're kind of financing the job a little bit up front, only because they hold like a 5 to a 10% retainage. That way they know that you're going to come in and finish the job. So it's more protects the owner. It's pretty common practice over here. So, you go in and when you bid the job, you have the profit and overhead that you want to get on it and you hope to get on it and you go out after it that way. So am I answering your question?
Yeah, you do. You have.
Okay. Yeah. Everything that we do is contractual. So depending on the contract terms and how they're stated, but most everybody's pretty equal, and it's pretty common practice of what takes place over here.
I see. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the internal structure of the company. At the very top of the organization, who do we have? Is it you or you and someone else?
You're going to have to repeat the question. Somebody drove up in my driveway, so my dog's driving me nuts right now.
That's right. Well, just talk about the structure of the organization.
It's the
At the very top of the pyramid, we've got you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your role in the business?
Well, I'm the vice president and general manager, so I'm overseeing pretty much everything from one side or the other. And I also wear the hat as a project manager, so I'm also managing a couple of projects a year. I have 2 estimator project managers that work directly underneath me. I have an office manager that works directly underneath me, and then she has people that work underneath her. And then Dan, our other partner, operations manager, he's the one that goes out into the field every day, each job that he can get to, and makes sure that all the equipment and the right people are there to meet the client's needs. And that's pretty much how our system works.
I see.
The rest of the people are operators, laborers, and truck drivers that are the workforce that are the heartbeat of the company for the most part. Can't do anything without them.
Okay. Sorry, just to circle back for a moment. I'm sorry, go on, Wesley.
I'm sorry, Alex, for
No, not at all.
Rob, did you mention Mick?
Mick, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is very critical too. Our service manager, my brother, is the other partner. Our equipment's got to stay up and running on a day-to-day basis, so their role is very important. And Mick keeps all the equipment up and running and buys and sells the equipment along. That's what my dad mostly did as well when he was still actively involved. But we've got 4 mechanics working directly underneath him just to keep everything moving, maintained, so we can do the work. Without the equipment, we wouldn't have anything either. So very important part of our business.
Okay. So I'm sorry, just to circle back to your to your role within the organization. How long have you been in this current role?
This current role, I came in 2006. So doing math in my head real quick, but yeah.
15 years, yeah.
14 to 15 years as a general manager.
Okay. How many hours would you estimate that you actually work?
Well, minimum 50 to 60 hours a week is what I put in. More of that's a choice because I've been doing it all my life since I was a laborer in the ground with a shovel. So it's just a habit I can't get out of.
Okay. So a prospective buyer is coming in and is stepping into your shoes. Okay. My first question to you is, what sort of qualifications or experience would be required for them to effectively do what you do?
Well, number one thing that having a business background, of course, would be important. But understanding the business would be the most important thing, I think. But you can run a business and have somebody working for you that understands dirt and be successful. And then somebody else running the numbers. I grew up in the business. Dan grew up in it, and we went from doing the work to running the jobs to bidding the jobs. So we went all the way up the ladder. My dad, on the other hand, he's more of a business kind of guy that understands the business side. And so I learned most of that from him without having to, I didn't go to college to learn any of it. I just took some trade classes, stuff like that, to get some background in the management side of it. So I know a lot of other businesses that I deal with, and it's a mixture of people that can be successful. So it's just a person that has enough understanding of business and knowing what tools he needs to be successful, which is everybody could have a little bit of a different idea on how to do that, I suppose. But I think with our success is that we thrive on making the client satisfied with the type of work that we give them, so they come out ahead and we can come out ahead as well. And I believe that's what keeps us up above the rest of them. We're not in there just to make a buck. We're there to allow them to make a buck, and keeps coming back for us to do more work for them.
Absolutely. Alex, I think it's important to note that our positioning of this company is the partners are willing to stay on in a management capacity, helping to transition, up to about some of them are 3 years, some of them are 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And the summaries that I provide you show adjustments to that salary level. So anyway, I just want to make sure that the copyright kind of reflects that option for a buyer, because we're expecting a private equity group or a larger excavating company or somebody adjacent to that space to be interested in this, and they're going to need people within. I don't mean to hijack this, Rob. I just want to make sure that because the positioning here is very critical, and we're not going to attract somebody that is just getting on a Boeing that wants to get into dirt moving and is going to be able to take over everybody's job, right? So anyway.
No, that's good that you brought that to my attention, because it definitely shifts the conversation to a
right. Because a lot of buyers take the place of one of the partners, right? And that may still happen. I'm already cultivating interest that might happen, right? But probably the most likely scenario would be private equity group needing Rob and Dan and Mick to kind of stay on for a period of time to help groom future management. So anyway, I just felt like I needed to get that out.
Absolutely.
No, I appreciate that as well. Like I say, with our type of a business, everybody's got a different way of how to do a business and what's going to work for them. We have the background and experience that what we're doing is working, because we've been here for 40 years and made it through a couple of different recessions, man. And I honestly just believe that you pay attention, and we have a lot of systems in place that work with the flow. Now, somebody could come in with technology and have a different way to do it and have to train staff to be able to move that direction. I can't tell you if it would work better or not. I just know that what we are doing at this time is working well, enough that we make sure we get paid and we make sure that we pay our bills. And really, that's what business is, Got to get some profit at the end of it and keep everything moving, keep everybody happy. We have a great safety record and good employees. We got people that's been with us for over 15, some up to 20 years. So we must be doing something right.
Okay, no, that's very good. All right. Talk to me a little bit about your supply chain. First of all, are most of your suppliers for, raw materials for equipment, are they local or located overseas?
Local.
Local. Okay.
Yep.
What's the relationship been like with your suppliers? I mean, how long have you had them? What sort of relationship have you established with them?
We're ones that develop a relationship and have a hard time with change. But our main supplier, we have a local pipe supplier that provides us with all of our pipe, concrete structures for all the utilities that we put in the ground. We've veered around a little bit and tried other suppliers, but the relationship we have with this company called H.D. Fowler, it's just hand down the best way for us to go. They stay competitive and they meet our needs. And we are their biggest client over here in this area of what we buy through them. And we do the same thing with our equipment repairs and our equipment purchases. We'll go to a couple of different competitors and try out their equipment, but majority of our equipment is with one equipment company, which they're called Pape, but John Deere and Hitachi equipment, just because of the service. The service means everything, and they meet our needs. So we'll just keep going back to them until somebody messes up, which for all the years we've been doing this, we've been with them to a lot. So it's almost like H.D. Fowler is a one-stop shopping company. They are a supply chain that goes to the bigger, most everything's U.S. made, but there is stuff that comes from overseas, but we go to them to go get it. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, let me ask you then, reconciling what you just told me about your team and about your suppliers and about the payment terms that you have with your clients. So do they meet your payment terms in terms of, they'll expect you to pay at the completion of the job, or do you have to pay them, still 30 days or upon purchase?
Yeah, all of the above.
I see.
Yeah, we get paid every month. All right. Most contracts are net, the 10th of the following month. So you do your billings on the 25th. You expect to get paid the 10th of following. That's the best case scenario. Sometimes we'll be working for a general contractor that waits for the owner's payment, and we could be as up to 60 days. But majority of the time, it's fairly quick. And we'll have payment terms. If we have long-term payments with our clients, then that's part of having the relationship. The people who we buy from, they work with us in the same regards. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm going to say net 30 is probably on the average, but we like to say paid when paid. So that makes you have to make sure you go out and get paid for everything that you do. I mean, my guys, including myself, we push to make sure we get paid for the work we do. And when we get paid, we turn around and pay our bills.
I see. Okay. Is it fair to say that given the size of the projects that you work with, that you don't really have much problem as far as bad debts or late payments?
No, we don't. Right now, the times are good. I can't say that we've never had, because we do. Everybody does in business. We do everything that we need to do our background check on them. We check their reliability. We don't bring on subs that we know nothing about. So we're pretty strict about how we do this.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the competitive environment and how you stand out within the market. Now, first of all, would you say that the market is saturated as far as competition is concerned?
It's picking back up again. COVID slowed it down a little bit, but that's partly why I like doing private work. When we bid private work, you're usually about 3 bidders, maybe 5 to 6 at the most. Even when times are bad, that's about all I ever have to compete against. But when you're doing public works, depending on the size of the project, it could be anywhere from 10 to 30 that are bidding on the same type of work. So that's kind of another reason why I like going to private. As long as you got a good client that you're working with that pays their bills, then their profit margins are better. It's just where we prefer to be. Public works, your margins are a lot tighter. and you don't have room for error whatsoever. And if you got changes in the public sector, it takes longer to receive your money. I can go on and why I try to stay away from it. But there's some contractors that's their bread and butter is public works, but they have a different approach of how to go after it and why they prefer to go there. So no, I like the private side.
Okay. And as you mentioned, the private side is not fully price driven in that they will take into consideration your, reliability, your reputation, etc. Those are important.
That is correct. Yeah. Negotiated work.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay, let's talk about the premises. Now, before we started recording, just as a reminder, I guess, to myself, we're basically going to give as an option the sale of the preferred option is the sale of the property together with the business or adjacent, parallel to the business, I should say.
Yep.
But, there is an alternative for also leasing out the premises. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. Well, let's talk.
But yeah, there is.
Okay.
There is.
Well, let's talk about the premises. First of all, what does it consist of?
All that information is provided as well, but we have, I think it's just a little over 6,000 square foot building. Probably 3,000 square foot of it is a service department. It's a 2-story office upstairs and downstairs. It's open to the public. We used to have a gravel pit that we've already mined out and closed out. So we had customers that would come in and out the front door quite often, but, it's in a great location right off the main highway. We have enough room to park majority of our equipment there now. We've grown quite a bit that it's the office space is plenty of room. Sometimes parking a bunch of iron can be hard, but, other than that, it's in a great location. So.
And Rob, I know that some of these questions seem redundant, and they are. It's just we're just reinforcing, the written,
Sure.
the written exam. But it's just refreshing and reinforcing, and we want to make sure that we have the best info possible out
Sure.
there. So, yeah.
Yep. And sorry, just one more thing about the premises. Are they appropriate to support the current operations of the business, or do you feel like there's room to grow within them? Do you feel like you've outgrown them?
Currently, it will support the business as we have it. It's the parking lot's tight. If we had to take all of our iron and put it on the land, it would be pretty crowded. It would fit, but it would be crowded. But the goal is to keep the equipment going from one job to the next to the next. I mean, that's kind of the way it is in our type of a business. You don't want to bring the equipment back home. If you do, that means you're not working. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yep. So as far as the office staff and the shop, it's fine, just where it is. If you want to grow double the size that we are, then no, the building wouldn't be able to accompany the management staff to be able to do that. Okay.
All right, let's do a quick SWOT analysis. Strengths of the business. Now, we've talked extensively about the reputation. What else would you identify as real strengths of the business aside from that? Aside from reputation, the history.
Besides the reputation and the history, like I say, I think it's the way we do business. When we're asked to do something, we provide the information that they're asking for in a timely manner. We don't beat around the bush. We're straight up, forward, and honest about if we say we're going to do it, we'll do everything we can to do it in the time frame they want. We're not just blowing smoke, and they know that. That's the reputation that we have. So we do quality work. That's one of the things that Dan makes sure that happens out in the field. We don't let anybody just get by and get it done. It's got to look good. It's got to be done right. And we'll back it up if it's not. So again, that goes back to our reputation. People know that that's what we do. We're just not in a hurry to go out and whip out a job and get the heck out of there. We're there to give the client what they're asking for. So, I mean, to me, that means a lot. So, not every competitor that we work against does that. They'll go after to get a job and then try to change order them to death because they got their foot in the door at a low price and then try to get paid back out the back door. And we don't do that. We bring it to their attention first.
So how about a concentration of talent? You guys have a lot of talented people that work for you.
We do. Construction's tough because qualified personnel is difficult. It just is, because the younger generation are more on the tech side, but our business is changing to the tech side as well. So we got to have a little bit of both, but there's still a physical demanding part of our type of work. So there's good money in it. They get paid well, but it's industry wide that qualified help to get them into that needs some work. But we belong to the AGC, which is Associated General Contractors. They provide training courses, and they go to schools and try to make it appealing, a little more appealing, and let the people in high schools and colleges, and they do training stuff and they to help bring them into the industry, because a lot of people just don't see it. They just think it's hard work. But like I say, the money's good. I know when I was younger, I loved working outside. You got to be able to go after those kind of people and make them not make them, but get them to see that there's still a benefit to doing this kind of work.
I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned the union, because I think that from a labor standpoint falls into the strength category on a SWOT analysis. Now there are downsides to that, which we'll probably get to, but that's certainly an upside where people who don't belong to a union, they don't have a pool of people. They don't have that advocate to try to bring people into the trades, right? So that's a good thing.
Yes, and we do that. Matter of fact, we've get people, younger people that we put into the laborers apprenticeship program, which the unions love that. And then we train them on the job, and then plus the union trains them and puts them into school until they become
a full growing your own future, right?
Yeah. And I've got a kid right now that's he just turned 23, just got married. He's making really good money. He's 90%. He'll be a journeyman in less than 6 months. Full benefit package, can raise a family, buy a house. I mean, at 23. So no college, just on the job type training, and make really good money. So that's why I say it's just his word of mouth is helping bring other people in as well. So they got to have a good background and good work ethics to survive in this type of a business. But they're out there. It's just you got to go through a few to get one or two sometimes. But even the laborers union has to do the same thing. So, with the Teamster side of it, having a pool to pick from is getting a little bit more difficult. Not sure why that is, but most of them stay working. There's nobody available. There's such a demand out here. I mean, I know you're over there in Australia. I don't know what construction is like over there, but there's just not enough people, equipment.
Probably crazy.
It's
just
crazy.
Like everywhere else.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Which actually, forgive me, but does that also tie up to your geographic location in Washington State as another strength of the business?
Well, yeah, it is. You bet.
Yeah, I mean, as activity is concerned in your sector.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, the Pacific Coast is seeing a lot of activity as far as in the construction sector. So, I mean, you believe that you're well positioned there in order to be able to meet the demand from the market.
We are very well positioned right now. The cost of living in King County, which is just on the other side of the water, people are trying to go to the outskirts of King County, and that's where the growth in our area right now is booming from, because it's affordable for them to, and they just came up with a better transportation system with fast ferries, so they don't have to drive. They can still work in Seattle but live over here. So when the housing goes, then the infrastructure's got to be built, and then when the infrastructure has to be built, then the stores start popping up and the retail centers pop up, and we do all of it. So, and again, with having the 3 major naval bases right here so close, there's so many opportunities of directions to go and diversify to keep yourself that you can be in all of them at the same time, or you could just pick and choose as you need to. But you know what I'm saying. So that makes it very appealing in my mind.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Weaknesses. Now, we're trying to approach this not from the perspective, of course, of, putting down the business, but rather of exploring areas where the business could improve on. Okay? What would you identify as weaknesses of the business?
So upsides, Rob.
That's right.
Upsides? Well, to me, an upside is what makes our business good. But you're asking what's the weakness? What's stuff that we can improve on? Correct?
Well, when people are looking at buying a business, right? Mm-hmm. They're not looking at just status quo. They're looking at, it's sort of like looking at a heating company that doesn't do planned service agreements, right? They've never focused on it, or they don't do service. A buyer would say, that's an upside. That's something that I could put into that business and really grow it, right?
Right.
Whereas the seller didn't want to do it just from whatever personal reasons. So that's what this question is really about, is what have you guys not taken advantage of the market, or what do you wish that you would have, right? But that a buyer might see as an upside.
Well, one of them is being more involved with the government type projects that are out there, because it's a whole nother niche of understanding government paperwork and the trail that you have to go through to get your foot in the door anymore. Do we lose somebody?
I think you just popped out, but I can still hear you.
Okay. So, I think it's really the weaknesses to me is if I had the drive still, because I'm 60 now, if I still had the drive I had 10 years ago, I would have been grabbing every one of those niches to try to keep my name and myself involved in all of it, from the government work to the public works, and broke it out a little bit more, just because there's some fun and challenge in being involved in all of it, if that makes any sense. And there's opportunities in all of it. But the size of the projects got to the point that we're trying to keep it manageable with what we have, partly because we kind of seen which direction we were going. I think it's wide open of where it can go, but we held it back only because of the age of the owners. Does that make any sense there? There's probably some more efficient ways of doing some of the paper shuffle. We have an accounting system that we've had in place since the early 90s. We've upgraded it. It's very popular, but it's kind of complex. That there's probably another way of doing it. I've heard there was, but because of the way our system's in place and how we track our costs and way we break down our financial system, I think it's successful because of the way it does it, but it's kind of difficult in a way that there's probably some easier ways there to streamline a little bit better with the way modern technology is. We try to keep up with technology, but it changes so fast. As soon as you get trained in one, it changes to another. So I wish we could have done a little bit more training involved in that. So I think we could probably be a little bit faster in that regards. Our communication system's pretty updated, so that works good. Doing the GPS stuff, we jumped ahead on that, so more training could be involved in that to get more people involved with it. Would be helpful as well.
What about your online presence?
What's that?
What about your online presence? Do you feel like that's something that could be improved on, or what you have is enough for your market?
I'm still a little bit on the fence on online presence. I'm not involved in LinkedIn, for example. We have a website that we try to keep up to date as advertising. If you think about it, 15 years ago, you'd go to the yellow pages. Now, if you don't have a website, nobody can find you. If you're not hooked into Facebook, I'm not a Facebook person myself either, but I do know that that's where everything's going. So it could be improved. There's no doubt about it. Our online presence could be improved.
Okay.
That's a good point. We try to keep up on it. And I've got a gal in the office that tries to keep stuff updated, and she does our Facebook stuff and our website. But it is another thing that changes a lot. And there's so many of it out there. As soon as you think you got one that's going to work, then another one is better. So it's an ongoing operation. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, opportunities and threats within the SWOT analysis, we approach it from a macroeconomic perspective. We've got the reports in here, the industry report, so we don't necessarily need to talk about it right now. But let me go then for one more section for you, and I promise we're almost at the end of this. This section is called Frequently Asked Questions. The idea with this is that we ask questions to anticipate concerns from a prospective buyer, okay? Which will also help us across the, throughout the SIM as we build it up. Now, my first question to you is the following. Biden's infrastructure plan, how has that affected you, and how's that affected the prospects for the company?
You're going to need to clarify that just a little bit more of what you're asking me.
Well, I mean, sort of like in terms of the direction where the American economy and specifically the construction sector is heading post-COVID, how do you feel like you guys are currently positioned to meet the growing demand of the industry?
We are currently positioned to keep up with what's in front of us, but I think it goes right back that there's always room for growth, and you need to keep yourself available to do that, and have the management that has the drive to want to do that. Does that make sense? I mean, I think is the key right there. You got to have the drive. You want to be able to just take on everything that comes in front of you and never say no. I mean, that's one thing that I never used to do is I would always look at whatever anybody came to me with, and we would try to do if we could fit it in. But we're getting to the point now we're saying no right now because there's so much work that every resource that we have is doing everything it can just to keep up with what's in front of us right now.
Okay.
I would say that, Alex, I would say that Biden's infrastructure plan, which may be, more touted outside of the country than it is inside the country, look, our president isn't an idiot. And it's like, they're trying to make sure that everybody's like, oh, well, maybe he is smart or something. I think the infrastructure plan is more in line with federal projects. And when Rob was talking about going after public projects and things, it would probably, those are the kind of the projects that kind of money is going to touch.
Sure.
Mostly.
It's a trickle down effect though, isn't there? I mean, because
to use Reagan. Yeah. No, it does trickle down, and we are seeing very robust commerce, because we just, I think something like 25 or 30% of all of our currency was printed last year, right? And so we're seeing the results of that right now. So I think that if RVA can get people to increase capacity, then they're going to be in a good position. They're taking advantage of it right now, and this is before the infrastructure thing even hits. I mean, so I think that once it hits, there's going to be years and years and years of projects down the road that are going to be a result. But I kind of think it would be that way without it too. But I mean, I'm just a dumb broker.
Well, the thing is there is right now. The state of Washington's got a bunch of funding right now. They've got over 1,000 streams that have culverts that need to be removed and replaced, which is something we're pre-qualified to do. We are pre-qualified with the state of Washington, and on the Department of Transportation to do up to $20 million worth of work in a year if we chose to go into that direction. We haven't worked for the state of Washington on any highway projects in a number of years, but we stay up to date and stay qualified with them. So there's so much more out there that we could get involved in, and it just opens the door all over the place of what we've built. So there's plenty of room in there for directions to go.
Okay. Access to capital resources and excavation equipment, specifically as new equipment comes in. I mean, are you well positioned in that regard in order to be able to obtain new equipment to update your old ones?
Yeah, we have a system that we do that on a regular basis. That's one of the things that my brother has to stay on top of. There's a standard lifetime on equipment that is our main equipment that we replace on a regular basis. Our bigger iron, we call it our bigger iron, it's stuff that does mass earth moving. We don't ever, I'm going to say ever, but we usually don't buy new because they don't work all year round. They only get maybe 600 to 700 hours a year. So you don't want to go spend $500,000 on it to sit there for half a year. So if we need to, we'll rent some of that. But other than that, we have older iron that we just keep maintain to keep running as far as the big earth moving stuff, because it's a value add by having it and keeping it. But if you could spend $50,000, for example, for an earth moving scraper that hauls 20 yards, or you could buy a brand new one that costs you $500,000. Mm-hmm. Well, you could fix that $50,000 machine quite a few times if you needed to. So does that make any sense of what I'm getting at there? We have a credit line. Right now, buying equipment is fantastic because there's zero interest. So when you buy it, you take advantage of that. Our government had that fantastic one when Trump was in, where you were getting your depreciation up front. That was a really nice thing to do. So we took advantage of that. So a lot of our smaller equipment, we'll call it, like the stuff that gets over 1,000 hours plus a year, we keep that well maintained and updated as much as possible. Right now, most of our equipment's paid for. Our goal was to have everything paid for in 2022, and we're like so close to doing that. Well, once you do that, then you start that cycle all over again. So that means you're about ready to start looking at what else you need to replace and what's still holding strong. And it's just an ongoing process as far as equipment is concerned. Okay. We have a credit line with a local bank that we've done business with. Most of our life of business is Kitsap Bank. We've ventured to a couple of different banks, but always went back to this one. But we have a great relationship with them. You have to have a credit line because you need to have bonding. And to keep the bonding, you want to hang on to that because that allows you to do the public works. If you don't have bonding, you can't get public work type projects. You can't get qualified with the state. So we keep all that stuff in line as well. And the only way you can do that is you gotta be profitable. You can't get bonding and have a credit line if you're going backwards. So all that's key and important to stay on top of.
Also, Alex, we're positioning for a stock transaction. So we feel that an asset transaction might be too risky to a buyer from an attrition standpoint, contract attrition standpoint, and a stock would help with those things like the line of credit and maintaining existing accounts and working capital and that kind of thing. So.
No, perfect. All right. Well, last question for you. Do you feel like in this interview that I've missed anything? Is there anything that you want to bring to my attention that we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think we covered a lot of stuff that is on paper, but just having the open conversation gets me thinking sometimes too about where we could go. Like you say, if I was 20 years younger, right now the opportunities are wide open around here. So there's so many directions that we could go, and it's a win-win, I think. I love the challenge. That's partly where when I jumped in as a general manager, and the challenge of all of it and getting to the point of where we are that I can back off just a little bit. It's what I'm shooting for. But anyway, I think we covered pretty much everything. Construction is a difficult business in some ways, but there's a lot of opportunity with it as well. So,
excellent. All right, that's everything from me then.
Okay, so Alex, I believe that the next step here is we will be getting just a text proof of the text content, and then once we approve that, it gets fluffed up into the fluffy magical thing we call a CIM, right? With IBIS reports and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and photos and that we've provided, and okay.
Definitely. So the first draft is what we call the contents only draft. Right. It doesn't look pretty, but it's not supposed to. Okay, it's supposed to just allow you to edit it. That's the only purpose of it. Yeah. Okay, then once that's that's what we put it into a template.
What ETA do we have on that typically?
Well, we're going to start working on it still as of today. So the turnaround time for that is 7 to 9 business days. So in other words, next week we'll have it back to you.
And then once we approve that, then the fluffed up version is within a couple days after that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rob, I'm working on the vanilla verbiage that we're going to use with advertisement. Okay. And Charles is actually going to be doing a proactive campaign with folks that we think might be interested, including the ones that you gave us. They're not going to have your name, of course. It's all going to be, hey, are you interested in acquiring? And we go through the NDA and vetting process. But so I think we'll be live, within 10 to 14 days, probably.
Okay.
So, just so you know, and then you'll get the content proof, and I'll ask you to approve it, and of course we'll go over it too, and we'll kind of put our heads together on it. So,
all right. Like I say, it's a learning curve for me. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. My success is just to work hard, and so I hope I've helped get us going.
Oh, yeah, tremendously. Yeah, no, it takes a lot to bring a company like yours to market.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. That's why we called you, right?
Right. Yes, the guru. Anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So, okay, well, Alex, hey, have a great Tuesday. Thanks for letting us know that world peace occurs tomorrow. And,
perfect.
All right. Thank you very much, Rob. Really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. And I look forward to your product when you're done.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
See you later. Have a good night.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.